16 minutes past the 8 o'clock hour. Chris Lenois back with you on the Green Mountain Mornings program, closing out the week. It's Friday, March the 24th, and that means we are joined from his compound in Dummerston, the deputy editor of The Commons, your reader-supported, award-winning news and views source for Windham County. Free on stands every Wednesday online at commonsnews.org. Happy Friday to you, Randy.
Happy Friday to you and everyone, and hi, Joyce.
Hi, Joyce. Thank you so much for tuning in from upstairs in the compound there for our conversation today. Hey, nice to see Olga Peters' byline back in the Commons this week.
Yes, she does the work I don't want to do. One way of putting it, but yes, she's been helping us out with some of the Brattleboro coverage because we are a little bit shorthanded with her departure over to your esteemed competitors.
Yes, indeed, over at WTSA, as where Olga is living now. But since she was at the pre-town meeting last week, seemed why not get her to write the article previewing the representative town meeting that is taking place tomorrow, which we'll all be covering in our own capacities. I'll actually be live tweeting it using the hashtag BrattTM, watching it on Brattleboro Community Television, who will be there broadcasting it live, as well as in HD. Everybody there, I was actually warning Kate O'Connor and Jill Stahl-Tyler that they have an HD feed now at Brattleboro Community Television through their web stream, so they're going to have to wear some extra makeup tomorrow.
HD?
HD. 1080i HD, baby, coming to Brattleboro for town meeting. So careful if they pick you up on there. But let's talk a little about what we learned at the pre-town meeting last week. First of all, seems like participation is up. Even the note we got from Hillary Francis, the new town clerk here in Brattleboro, very few vacancies on the representative town meeting body compared to the last couple of years, it seems.
Yes, I think the call that's gone out since the election that, you want to get involved in politics, start at the bottom. Don't wait for every 4 years to get involved. Run for your local offices and start making change that way. I think that's been heeded by quite a few people. So there's a lot of new faces on the town meeting roster for this year.
And younger ones as well. I was just having a conversation with Alex Fisher from The Root. I know that Alex is on there. H.B. Lazito from Green Mountain Crossroads. Nice to have younger voices, more diverse voices. We've had relatively good diversity on the board, on the representative town meeting body in the past, but it certainly has been one where the age limit, I remember when I was a member of the body, I felt like I was one of the younger people in the room. I don't think I will feel that way looking at it tomorrow.
No, because we're not young anymore.
No. But even then I wasn't young. I was over 40, north of 40, right? In that middle-aged, I don't know. But certainly it's good to see some younger voices on there. Nice to have people wanting to participate. And should overall, I think, be a pretty smooth meeting from what I took away from Olga's article in the Commons.
Well, the municipal part of the meeting should be a smooth part of the meeting. There's very little to talk about financially that David Gartenstein, the chair of the select board, was downright giddy when he was giving his wrap-up of the financial picture for the town. That it's in good shape. Their town manager Peter Elwell has managed to straighten out finances and come up with a plan for long-term spending, building up surpluses, coming up with ways to replace equipment when it's needed, so that you're not doing that at the last minute. It's there's a lot to be happy about.
Yeah, $17.5 million budget they'll be voting on, and that is an increase of over 7%, according to Olga's article, but taxes only going to go up 3%, and the only reason they're going up that much really has to do with the debt service on the police fire facility.
Yeah, so it's all in all, it's pretty good. So it's the school part of the meeting that's going to probably be the most contentious, and of those two numbers that we hear so much, 4 and 6.
4 and 6, right. Give some explanation to those numbers for the listeners out there.
In other words, Act 46.
Yes, I see what you're saying. Right. Well, and I wonder, because Jill Stahl-Tyler was on the program yesterday, and she's a member of the Act 46 study committee. I guess there's going to be an attempt to try and suspend the rules to have the Act 46 discussion in between the school portion and the town portion versus at the end when other business gets taken up, because there is no item for Act 46 on the agenda.
Yeah, but it's still hanging over the proceedings, and if it's been like all other town meetings around the county, there will be a long, lengthy debate over this, even though Brattleboro has little to lose with Act 46 and has been painted as the villain by the smaller towns in Windham Southeast. There's going to be a discussion.
And my hope, personally, is that discussion happens during other business at the end, after all the other business, because there are some people who really want to discuss Act 46 who, quite honestly, I'm not sure have been paying attention to the Act 46 discussions that have been happening in the past year and a half. And I think that if you are a representative of town meeting who that's not important to you, because let's face it, it's not something that they're voting on. It's not something that Brattleboro decides on unilaterally here. It seems to me to be more appropriate for the end of the meeting rather than in the middle of the meeting. I don't know if you have thoughts to the contrary.
No, I don't have any thoughts on the contrary, because, of course, I come from Dummerston and everyone hates us.
Right. You guys are well ensconced in your own point of view on that. But it really just becomes an exercise in rhetoric. There's no decision tomorrow to be made on Act 46. And so I feel like I'm hoping that when they do make that attempt to suspend the rules, that it doesn't happen, and we just have a nice, smooth town meeting. Of course, I got something to do in the evening, so that might have something to do with it as well.
An exercise in rhetoric at town meeting? Quelle surprise.
Indeed. I guess one other item on the town meeting agenda for the municipal part that could stir some debate has to do with the Southeastern Vermont Economic Development Strategies funding. They're going to be there, and I'm sure going to raise an amendment to try and increase the assessment. Brattleboro, the select board, had said we're only going to do it to $2 per person versus $3 per person. And I don't necessarily see a lot of support within the select board, certainly, and necessarily the representatives of town meeting to give them more money than is being allotted right now from the agenda item. Do you?
I don't see any support either, because it's, you ask them what have they done with the money, and they kind of, come up with all kinds of song and dance routines, but you don't see an awful lot of bang for those bucks. Yeah.
I mean, Kate O'Connor talking on this show about how much investment the town is doing directly, and it would come from that same pool of money. So I think that that might be one that we have a lot of rhetoric about, but we'll see what the vote comes out in the end. I know you'll be there taking some photos.
Yes, I will be there taking photos for the morning session, because I'll be the same place you'll be at the end of the day.
Yes, indeed. And I will be watching it from home and live tweeting it, #BrattTM, watching it on the HD feed, 1080i, representative town meeting in the 21st century. We'll talk more with Randy Holhut, deputy editor of the Commons, after the bottom of the hour news break. 28 degrees outside at 21 minutes before the 9 o'clock hour. Green Mountain Mornings continuing now. Your host, Chris Lenois, joined by Deputy Editor of the Commons, Randy Holhut. Seems like a Warren Zevon kind of morning, Randy.
Yes, because it ain't too pretty at all outside there.
Ain't too pretty at all. Gray skies, and just looking at the Twitter feed here when this American Health Care Act vote is supposed to take place. It's at 10 o'clock now, they're saying, is when this vote is supposed to happen.
Yes, I think they may. I don't know if they made it cruel enough for the Freedom Caucus. But,
right. Well, the last thing I saw here, Robert Costa, of the Washington Post, saying that the votes, they think they have the votes. It's a very fragile count, but they do think they have it. I've heard things to the contrary, and certainly a lot of people in Vermont and in Windham County concerned about this at the legislative breakfast held by the Brattleboro Area Chamber of Commerce earlier this was this last Monday or the Monday previous?
No, it was Monday this week.
The Monday of this week, and Mike Fair there covering it for the Commons, and healthcare certainly one of the big question marks, but really right now it's all a big question mark for the state of Vermont, isn't it?
Yeah, and talking with the lawmakers on Monday, it just, the question I had is, how do you make policy when you have no idea what's going to happen? Everything is up for grabs. Funding is up for grabs. Policy up for grabs, and nobody knows for certain what's going to happen. and they just kind of shrugged and just, they're doing the best they can, but already they're talking about an October special session of the legislature to try and pass a budget that will reflect whatever federal budget gets passed and how many of Trump's, or should I say the Heritage Foundation's budget priorities get enacted.
Yes, you should say the Heritage Foundation's budget priorities for whatever gets enacted. Yeah, I mean, the Vermont legislature is supposed to convene their session and deliver a balanced budget by the end of May or by sometime in May. We'll see whether they're able to deliver that on time since all the back and forth between them and the Republican governor here, Phil Scott. But then, yeah, I mean, we won't know what they have to spend, and everything, especially with some of the key committees that Windham County lawmakers are on. You talk about Molly Burke and transportation, education with Emily Long. All these things are so federal dollar dependent.
Then, a good part of Vermont's budget is federally dependent.
Yeah.
And you figure just health care alone, the state could lose up to $200 million.
Yeah, it's incredible to think about. So kind of an academic. So I think people probably left that chamber breakfast probably with some indigestion rather than optimism, don't you think?
Yeah, well, it's not really that academic. I mean, for me personally, a week ago this time I was in Dartmouth Hitchcock, and I could say the affordable health care saved my life in terms of getting care I needed for something weird and out of left field, and it paid for it, and I didn't have to go into bankruptcy for that. And after this, I have no idea what I'm going to do for health insurance, and there are thousands of other people in Vermont that are going to be in the same boat, and millions around the country. Yeah,
not to mention other people who are directly accessing Medicare, Medicaid, any federal program, and what that means for funding in a state like Vermont. A meeting that was supposed to happen but did not because of the snow was the first public hearing regarding the sale of Vermont Yankee from Entergy to Northstar. That has been rescheduled to early April, but that didn't stop Northstar's Scott State from coming through and meeting with a lot of people. Mike Fair, again, covering this for the Commons. It's on the county and region section. Do you think he's starting to win people over as far as Northstar taking ownership of this?
Well, there's a big dose of skepticism coming with all this because, of course, they've not really done anything like this before. And, as checkered as Entergy's past has been, we know even less about Northstar, whether they're capable of doing this. Can they really clean the site up in far less time than Entergy was saying, and under budget, and not have to go back to the ratepayers and make them pay for the cost of doing this? A lot of skepticism, a lot of questions. Yeah.
Seemed to make Vernon happy. Josh Unruh, the select board chair, talking about how they're going to be an advocate for Vernon. And that's exactly what they're looking for. That certainly is a start with somebody like Kate O'Connor, who chairs the Vermont Nuclear Decommissioning Citizens Advisory Panel, or Adam Grinald, Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, who's been really focusing on economic development in the wake of Vermont Yankee closing down. They seem to still have a healthy dose of skepticism.
Yeah, yes, who really knows about this? Yeah. And certainly the anti-nuclear groups are not on board with this because of the untested nature of Northstar.
Right. Well, and that you anticipate. I said, you notice the groups that he didn't meet with are the ones who are really skeptical about Northstar taking this over. I noticed that they weren't included in this summation of who he met with that Mike Fair wrote.
Well, perhaps they showed up at the NDCAP meeting last night. Mike, unfortunately, was there.
Yes, indeed. And certainly they will be present at the April 6th meeting. That is the official public meeting at Vernon Elementary School that was canceled from earlier in the month due to the snow. Other news covered in the Commons and on the front page this week having to do with bridges in Windham County. Nice. Have you gone over the new bridge yet? I should ask you that. Have you had a chance to try it?
Suave. It's a pretty nice thing to not be driving down the hill toward exit 3 and feel like you're in a bobsled run.
Downright luxurious, having 2 lanes and a little bit of room to you on the side as you head northbound. And so that's great news, but similar kind of project, at least in structure, happening with two bridges up in Rockingham. Mike writing this story, $44.3 million. Do we think it's going to be a similar kind of situation with traffic up in that part as it was in Brattleboro?
Well, yes, that they're going to do the same thing with different contractors doing the work. But it's the same design bridge as the one over the West River. You know, they were built at the same time with using the same design, and unfortunately, this was the same design as the bridge that collapsed in Minneapolis back a few years ago. That killed a dozen or so people. And that's a big incentive for the state to get rid of this bridge. Unfortunately, it's a totally different road in that part of 91 in Rockingham than it is, you know, coming down between Exit 2 and Exit 3 in Brattleboro. That routinely every winter is one of the most dangerous parts of 91. Lots of bad accidents there, and that's going to be a challenge to keep traffic flowing in a place that's known as a really difficult place to drive in the winter.
Now, do we know PCL is the company that built the bridge here in Brattleboro? I don't know if they bid on this second project or not.
Yeah, I don't think they did.
No, I don't think they did either. They were a Florida-based company, and I think that played a role in some of the delays. I've actually had conversations with people locally here who were subcontracted on that project, especially doing the crossovers at the beginning, and they conveyed to me that they felt that these people were wholly unprepared for winters in Vermont. And so I think getting some companies from places like Maine and Nebraska, probably a better choice.
Yeah, people with a passing familiarity of winter.
With winter, indeed, certainly. But again, if it is as complex of a construction project, I mean, that was people are talking about how complex it was to build that bridge over the West River here. They have the experience because they've done it. So I guess there's a give and take there, but we'll have to see how it goes. And certainly nice to have another bridge in the works, especially up there in the Bellows Falls, Rockingham area. I know that they're kind of sensitive about their bridges, right?
Well, in the case of this bridge, this is kind of the degree of difficulty is going to be a little more difficult because there's an active railroad line underneath, as well as a river. Yeah,
that's a couple extra things happening with that project. Wrapping up our conversation with Randy Holhut of the Commons today by looking at Maple Open House weekend here for sugar makers in Vermont. Nice little, I know, right? I can't. The Dummerston Firehouse Sugar on Snow Supper is tomorrow night. I'm kind of mad. My wife reminded me I have not taken her to a Sugar on Snow Supper since we've been back in Vermont. That is shameful on my part.
Well, I guess you'll have to get a takeout plate, or we'll have to swing up to
no, she won't.
To get some. No, I'm not sure if there's any other ones after this one. I don't know my Maple schedule yet of all, but everyone else has had their suppers, and Dummerston's usually the last one.
Yeah, I think I heard that there's one in Guilford later on in April, so we'll have to see about that. But you know, a great job by Taryn Heon, kind of encapsulating everything around not only the open house weekend, but everything that has to do with sort of there's a science to sugaring at this point, especially with the factors of climate change, isn't there?
Yeah, and different ways of doing it now. That, you know, the vacuum method and the tubing rather than the bucket seems to be the way to go. And you know, now you have to consider things like, you know, the width of the tubing, where you tap, how often you tap, when you tap, quality of the sap, what do you use for an evaporator, you know, wood fire, oil fire.
It's all worth it. It's all worth it in the end with the maple syrup that's coming out. So certainly a great job by Taryn encapsulating some of that. That's on the bottom of the fold of the front page of this week's edition of The Commons, your reader-supported independent news and view source for Windham County. Always good to talk to their deputy editor, Randy Holhut, on these Fridays. We'll see you tomorrow, Randy. Thanks so much for your time today.
Okay, thank you, and see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. All right. We'll be back to wrap up this edition of Green Mountain Mornings right after these messages.